are listening to The Critical Social Worker, a revolutionary storytelling podcast. I'm your host, Professor Ace, and with the support of the University of Alaska Fairbanks Department of Social Work, we gather voices of revolutionary social workers from around the world, organizers, healers, artists, and educators, people who carry stories that connect us, challenge us, and remind us what it means to be human. Each episode is an offering, a chance to slow down, listen deeply, and feel the ground beneath your feet. Come as you are, stay as long as you need, and remember, no matter your pain, somebody, somewhere feels the same. Welcome to The Circle. This episode features Dalton Castor. Dalton's a father, survivor, and a truth teller. He's lived through meth addiction and severe alcoholism, nearly losing his life to liver failure. With over 5 years free, Dalton embodies resilience and the possibility of transformation. If you find something meaningful here, the best way that you can support this work is simple. Like, comment, share the episode, and subscribe to our channels. And if you want to connect, ask questions, or be a part of the conversation, please reach out, because I'd love to hear from you. Welcome to another episode of The Critical Social Worker. I'm very happy to be joined by a very old friend of mine, Dalton Castor. It's great to be alive, isn't it, Dalton?
It is, man. It's an honor to be here. In general, just life. I made it through a couple things, and it's a pleasure just to be able to speak to you still, you know?
Yeah. As we're going to go through, there's a lot of things, I think, from both of our stories, but maybe even a little more for you, Dalton, that experiences and different experiences that, you know, that maybe a majority of people don't make it through. And I was thinking, as I was thinking about this and talking to you, I was remembering my own time. We'll circle back a little bit and talk more about how we know each other and stuff. But when I was on the streets addicted to meth and I checked into rehab, I remember going up in there and there was this guy named Mike, and he was the one who did the intake, he's interviewing you and talking to me. And he's asking me, and he made me check that I didn't have marks on my arms for shooting up and stuff like that. And I remember he walked me into the administrative room or something, the filing room, and he pulled out all this big drawer of pictures and files. And he's like, these are all the people that came in here for meth addiction. You know how many of them are still doing well? He's less than 5% or something like that. And he's like, do you know where they go? They die, they go to prison, they get it put into other institutions, they're lifelong addicts and things like that. And at the time I was like, that's not true. And I got to know my friends and the other people in treatment and made good friends and relationships. And I think there's one or two still around, but out of all those people, I don't know where any of them are at. And so when I think about it, I'm lucky just to have made it through that. You know what I mean?
You are, and it's sad, but a lot of those, they're dead, it's jails, institutions, or death. Sadly, that's usually where it ends up, man, is death, because a lot of us humans are a little too hard-headed. Our pride's a little too high to say we got a problem. We do. It's just plain and simple. We do. I've had a couple different problems throughout my life, like meth being one of them. That's where I met you, I believe. Both of us. I remember being on the streets too. It was a tough time down there in Ogden, Utah.
It's funny to think about.
Nobody thinks, you think back, this has been 23, 24, 25 years ago, I remember riding up on a bike in West Ogden. You know how it goes. What else?
Yeah.
You remember any of these times with me?
Yeah, that's funny. That's another story I wanted to open up with, is that, just to put it in context. So this is in Ogden, Utah. It's like a medium-sized city in north of Salt Lake City, maybe the second biggest or second most, metropolis area in Utah. And it's funny that you mentioned the things that happen in a place like that, because when I, kind of took to the streets, I learned about all kinds of streets that I never knew existed before, if you know what I mean. And I ended up living out in a place called West Ogden. The town's kind of divided by a viaduct with train tracks and stuff like that. And it was like the real kind of hood over there, I guess you'd say, especially for Ogden, for Utah. And I lived over there with this family called the Valencias. And it was like a medium to big size drug operation over there, selling drugs and all sorts of things going on. And so this is 20 plus years ago, and there was, it's not like cameras are easily accessible. And so we had this security system set up that was all wired. So it's really old school wires throughout all the house. And you could see like this grainy video going down the street. And it looked like there was like a bunch of black cars approaching. What's going on? Is it the police? Who is it? Because the guy across the street had been raided recently. And look at it, and there's somebody on a bike coming up in front, and we see it come closer. And I didn't know you that well. I knew who you were, but I didn't know you that well at that time. And you come riding up on a bike, and there's like a ton of police. And I don't think they were following you. They just happened to be coming. And actually, now that I think about it, when I say that the guy across the street got raided, that's when he got raided, when they followed you in there.
Yeah,
Right?
I thought they were following me to the house you guys were at. So, I mean, I ended up trying to knock on the door. I remember that, and then jumping the back fence and running out of there because I didn't know what else to do. I'd never really been surrounded by cops before, you know. That's a very tough time in life right there. Like that was it. I was riding up on a bike, probably try to sell it for a little meth, you know, because that I stole from somebody already. You know, I probably stole it from a kid. That's just sad times back then. And at such a young age. And the crazy part is I see people getting into it at a later age, like it seems these days. Or they just, maybe it's just they, like you were saying earlier, they just got back on it. They never really got off. They've hit it so well, but it's just coming out now because it's an addiction. It ruins you. We think we can hide from it. We think that it's helping us, and it's just straight destroying you. That is a funny story, though. I remember that well for being 20 plus years ago, riding up on the bike and all them tough times. I mean, sleeping in abandoned houses, getting chased from people, getting beat up, jumped. You know, nobody ever said Ogden was crazy, but it is kind of when you see the nightlife, I guess. The life we used to live a long time ago it's still there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of wild things that go on that people don't know about, that, you might read about somebody getting arrested for this or doing this or whatever, but there's all kinds of things that
Mm.
are going that the mainstream folks that go to work every day don't have any idea about, and some certain craziness. You remember Kira, I ran into her mother in Morgan, where my mom lives, when I was visiting a couple of months ago. And do you remember, Kira had told me a story once, just to speak about how close life and death comes in these situations. And I remember she told me a story about, I can't even remember the guys' names anymore. It's been so long. I would have been able to tell you 10 years ago. But there was some guys, some real shady characters that Kira used to hang out with. And they had you in a house, and I don't know if you stole from them or what, but they was going to kill you. And she gave you
Yeah,
the tip, and you got to run away.
that happened. I did. I was gonna get him some dope, apparently, and I just walked away with some money. And later on, I ended up in an apartment, some girl's apartment, and I was gonna get her some. And the next thing I know is there's a bunch of guys in there, and they just so happened to be the ones that I robbed. So, I mean, that was the lifestyle I was living. And there was a kitchen over here. She's in the front room, and they've got me back in this little deal, and they're all in the kitchen discussing where they're going to put my body, I guess, after they kill me. So she looks at me and she's just like, go, just go, like now. Like she was just like, and so I ran to the door, I opened it, and I took off and ran up through this fence. I knew there was a hole in the fence because I was kind of familiar with the area. I've been living on the streets a little bit, and it ran up to the back streets up into a freaking graveyard. Sorry, this gives me anxiety still talking about it. I've never feared for my life. Like I have actually a few times throughout that whole deal. There's been more than once. There's been people breaking into my house, coming after me, thinking that I've done, because I was doing stupid stuff, like that. And they were real. I didn't think it was real. Nobody ever, but you get in there and it is. And I ran up through that graveyard, and that was like one of the most scariest things you can ever be in, like a position, because there's just a few roads. Ogden's not a big town. And all of a sudden you're up in a graveyard thinking there's people either behind you or going to the only street that you can get to.
Mhm.
And they're chasing you with guns. So I ended up making it to somebody's house that I knew, ran up to the upstairs apartment, and they let me in, and I fell asleep that night. I don't think it was long after that I ended up getting in trouble at Walmart and had dope in my pocket, and ended up going through drug court, which that's the program that really saved my life back then, you know.
That time.
Yes, that time. The first time, one of the times that helped me learn how to save my own life, I guess I should say. 12 steps, all of it. Like that's what helps me today through my second deal. And that was the problem was back then, got cleaned up, went through my 2-year program. I mean, it was court. It was every week. It was UAs every week, inpatient therapy, outpatient, like just a lot for 2.5 years, meetings after meetings. I think I recall seeing you around that time, and that's when became, you know, wanting to do better for ourselves. And
Yeah,
you did. I'm so proud of you, by the way.
well, I think there's a point here, like a lesson to be learned too, is that I taught an addiction course over the summer, and we looked at it like through a different lens, like saying that healing from addiction just doesn't include like not using drugs or staying sober. You know what I mean? Like it requires like true healing for whatever was, because you wouldn't have done all that stuff to yourself before if you weren't already messed up. If you know what I'm saying, if there wasn't already something going on. So you have to heal all that stuff. And one of the ways that you could do that is connection. And I think of that time when you're talking about you went to jail for a while and drug court, and I went to rehab. So we were in different situations, but we were in the same area. And it's literally the thing that kept me going, because one of the hardest things about it is you don't have any friends, because all your friends do things that you don't want to be around, that you can't be around anymore. And so I don't have any friends, and I even have people that I'd see once in a while, and I'd have to figure out ways to not go with them and things like that. But recovery in those days in northern Utah was like really, really cool. Like they had pickup softball every Sunday, which developed into several different softball teams and connections there. There was like all sorts of dances and events, and
It was.
like it was a young crowd, like we were in our early 20s, and it was a really young crowd of people to hang out with. It was just really a positive in all the ways that they were able to allow us to connect. And without that, I would have been toast, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
I agree. Recovery was super strong back then. I'd like to see it it's getting better. I think worldwide, I think people are starting to recover a little more again and seeing the reality of what's going on. It's hard to turn a blind eye with social media. I mean, now we get it. Like I put mine out there, and I put some pretty gruesome pictures, and videos out there of myself after the fact. I said we went to drug court, all this stuff, and my problem was I turned to alcohol after all that. So I went legally into addiction instead of illegally like I was. So I was a high functioning alcoholic for years. I mean, I thought I was doing great, honestly. Like I got a job. I mean, throughout this I have 5 kids total, 4 girls, 1 boy. 2 girls did get adopted out, and they're doing awesome. I get pictures every year. I've actually got the chance to meet them now. But it's like all that pain, all that running from them people, a lot of this built up, and I held it, and it created like a PTSD. So anxiety's real. You get it super bad, and little things can freak you out. But throughout so when I started drinking after the drugs, I mean, it's what I was used to, kind of society accepted it. That's how I seen the world. I thought I was doing good things, like you go to a party, you go hang out with family, you go hunting, fishing, anything, we'd have beers. I mean, that's just how life was, I thought. But to some of us, we can't just have a beer or 3. We just have to drink till we can't function. We have to black out. And that's the problem with alcohol is it is a drug. So just like drugs, you take a little bit of one, the next time you got to do a little bit more, especially if it's every day, just to get the same feeling you think you're chasing, which you don't find out that feeling's actually sobriety until you get sober. And that road was long. It was long. I got my daughters, 2 of them at They were 8 years old. I ended up buying a house. So I got a job. I worked the same job 15 years. I lived a good life. I'm not going to lie. Like, I had a great life. It was fun raising my girls and then having my little boy. It's just, it turned into no matter what, I had to have a drink with me. So I'd go to work. After that, it was, I can't wait to get home to drink. If you ever find yourself at work thinking about drinking, you might have a problem
Mm.
you know? And I didn't realize that either till after. Like now, I've been sober for 5 years, and how it led up to that, just over 5 years now. And how it led up to that was my alcohol problem throughout the years grew into, like I said, if I went golfing with the buddies, I was getting hammered, and family trips. I had to get hammered, go camping. It was just everything had to have my world started revolving around alcohol instead of life. And for me, that was tough, to accept. Like I was drowning. I was going in debt. I was losing relationships because I was shitty. Sorry about the language, but I was a bad person. I treat people like crap. I didn't care about nobody but myself and my drink towards the end, especially, and then I got to the point to where my son's mom left, my daughters grew up, started realizing they don't want to be around that. So they distanced themselves. It seemed where I was alone. All of a sudden, I'm sitting there with a bottle. That was my only friend, I thought, for years, 20 years. And then the next thing you know is I was going to go golfing actually with my son. Like his mom had left me, whatever. They moved away. That one hurt too. So everything kept adding up, and I would use it as more of an excuse to drink just more, so I didn't have to feel it even more. They ended up in Nevada I just didn't want to feel it at all. No man wants to be like, I'm garbage. I lost everything. Yeah, I still had my house at the time, but I didn't have a soul. I gave it to alcohol. It was tough to accept, and was gonna go golfing with my one of my other buddies, Cody, and my son one day after they had returned. So they moved back, and I was so far deep down into being sick with all this, and 38 years old now, at the time. The next thing I go, all right, I got to go across the street. I couldn't forget to get a drink, so I was going to my neighbors because I was out of alcohol. I was laid off for COVID. That's what had happened. Is now I had an extra 8 hours to drink that I used to be at work. Got laid off for COVID, drinking, ended up going across the street to grab one more drink, and I just couldn't drink it. Like I felt there was stuff going on, but I just was like, I can't. And I went in their basement and I just laid down, man. I was like, all right. I couldn't do anything. Like I figured my buddy would call his mom, and I mean I was done fighting. I gave up, I guess. Alcohol won at that point in time. I don't think I've ever said that. It took a lot. My daughters came down to that basement and they pulled me out with my buddy. I mean, it took a lot to get me up. Walk across the street to get my buddy's truck. And I remember telling him on the way, he was going over Riverdale Road, taking me to the hospital. He was just flying. I was like, dude, like I'm pretty out of it by then. I don't know I think, well, at the time, my liver, kidneys, everything was shutting down. My gallbladder's all infected. I was just like, hey, you ain't going to get us there any faster. You're going to get us pulled over. That's like one of the last things I remember saying. And the last thing I remember him hearing was him pretty much saying, buddy, trust me, when we get there, he's like, I ain't going to pull over. And when we get there, they'll help me get you in that hospital. That's how bad you are. And then I went in for a week, was all withdrawn. I made it through the withdrawal somehow. I've heard that's like just one of the worst. That's where you die. People can't make it through that part. Somehow I did. I do have video of that on my Facebook if anybody ever wants to go check it out. But it's pretty, I can't speak. I'm singing opera in there. It's just not me. I don't even know how to look at it anymore. And I'm in there for a week. And I get out and I hadn't drank now. So I'm home thinking I'm getting better, right? Well, my melt score was 40. So they pretty much gave me 3 months to get a liver transplant. I had a 0% chance of making it, like a point zero something without a liver transplant for 3 months. And I go home and I'm there for 3 weeks. And then my dad's like, yo, he's dying. We didn't know that that I was going to die. Kind of, I think they might have, but I think they didn't know. The hospital pretty much sent me home to die because you don't get a liver in 3 months. You just don't. There's no way unless I could get healthy enough. So they was pretty much like, you have 3 months to get healthy enough to get a transplant or you're going to die. 3 weeks go by. I'm home just trying. I'm sick. I'm yellow, jaundice. My eyes are just yellow. This is the closest to death I've ever been. Like, I questioned it so many times throughout this whole little deal. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. It really wasn't. It took everything. Like my shoulders, I had to get it. I have a titanium one on this side. I need one on this side. It eats your bones. I went down to 130 pounds, 6'1". I was 220. I almost lost 100 pounds. So back to the hospital I go, and they just put me in an ambulance and drive me to a better hospital, I guess. They admitted me down in Murray, Utah at the IHC. And it took about 3.5 weeks before we got me to figure out I ended up with a drain tube draining out of my gallbladder bile that was at one point it was black instead of yellow because your bile's yellow. Poked a hole in me. It had a feeding tube. And I mean, it's pretty humbling to be in that hospital room and not being able to be strong enough to even get out of that bed to use the bathroom. So you just got to go in your bed, or you try and it's all over the floor, because, and all this is because of alcohol. It was nothing else. It was drinking. Years and years of drink. I poisoned myself for years, and this was the repercussion. All over for weeks in that hospital room. Just hell. It was during COVID, no visitors. They even had me on the floor, though, that you couldn't, because you go insane. You have to mentally come back from all this, learn how to walk, pretty much. It's rough. The elevators, they don't have buttons to get down and up. They don't, you're going to try to escape. I didn't care if I had a pole, a tower. I was trying to get out of there still. I didn't want to be in the hospital. I was rude to the nurses. Like mentally, you just lose it. But that's the part though, is like, even though I doubted myself at times, we can make it through that. We don't have to live like that. And I don't think a lot of people understand it. Like, it takes a lot to just get the story out. Obviously, tears come to my eyes when I get to certain parts because it still hurts. I'm not healed from everything. It takes time. Everything's just going to take time. And we have to learn how to accept things and understand things, who they are and who are even. Like, if you think about it, since the age of about 14, I never gave myself a chance at being sober until I was 38 years old. And that was a rough sober up until now, about 5 years. I mean, everything hurts, but I'm getting better, I think. So it makes everything get better around me is what it is. And people come back into your life. I'm building my relationships with my family, like my mom, my dad. I couldn't imagine life without them. My sisters, kids, just all of it. And I just about drank that all away. And I was blind to it. That's the thing. It lets you think that everything's fine.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm going on and on here about like just going into details here.
it's a good story, and you must have, your family must really love you, Dalton, because I just from a few interactions, haven't lived in Utah for a long time, but when I did, I check in on you, and towards the end, you weren't really able to be checked in on because you were just so, like, even on the phone. And so I know that if you were talking to me that in such a way that for sure you were mean to your family, and you talking about even to the people at the hospital. And so I just want to say that, because from my end too, I mentioned the whole recovery scene, but also having family for me was vital. And I'd done so many wrong things to them. And so for them to back me up and support me like they supported you, it just says that it also takes, folks to love and care about us and to, let bygones be bygones to some degree. But I was curious, Dalton, when did you know during. So I remember from when I was on meth, I knew I woke up one day and I was just like, I'm done. Like I was in a really shitty place. I didn't want to be there. I knew like I was gonna stop and do something different. But you mentioned being in there and not wanting to be in the hospital. I'm sure you'd been on the booze for so long. When did you know that like you had changed or that your life was going to be different from now on?
I believe it was right. It was after I made it through the withdrawals of that. I said I ain't drinking no more. I had to tell not just myself. I had to make a promise to everybody, and then I had to decide to fight. And even I've lost good friends through the same thing. Like throughout this whole process, like it sucks. It sucks watching your best buddy sit in your driveway while you got a tube sticking out of you because he can't stop drinking, and then months later he dies. So I don't know. I guess that was it. It was right after the withdrawals, and I had to make the decision. Like, do I want to live like this? I'm not gonna live. Obviously, it took me that long that I was just gonna die. And so I try to spread my message as much as I can to not let other people get that far. Like it's real. It can take you, and it will. Like, some people can have a couple drinks, that's okay. That's fine. That's you. Some people can't, and they need to be the ones that understand that, because it'll kill us. That's it. That's the bottom. That's the bottom. I watched Take My Uncle. I mean, how many, it's never, I'm surprised it's still legal. The only way it is, in my opinion, if I can say an opinion here, is that it's not. When somebody dies, it's never called they died by like alcoholism, it's a heart attack or something. It's whatever goes last. So it's not documented, right? Or it probably would be if it's really taken.
Yeah, well, even we're here from on behalf of the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and I don't have it right in front of me, but when you look at the little pie chart of deaths in Alaska, alcohol is just it dwarfs like everything, like it dwarfs all other drugs combined. It's just, and
So
then
they
it's so normalized and accepted. I think both of us know that through family and acquaintances and friends and things like that. But alcohol is just so normalized, and it's funny because alcohol can connect you in certain ways, right? You go out, you have a good time with your friends, you had really good memories, you might have a little hangover, but you really connected in a way that maybe your anxiety or something would have kept you from being so nice to each other or something like that. But especially over time, but there's individual instances, but then over time, if you're drinking, especially drinking too much, like there's just a huge dark side that unfortunately I haven't went all the way down that road. I've seen you do it, I've seen other people do it, but even me, it's caused me to do things that there's no way I would have done under a normal circumstance, and put me at risk of jail and hurting other people and things like that. And so I think a very sad part of our culture in America right now is just that we're unwilling to really talk about that. Like you said, it's okay if you're going to drink and if you're going to have some drinks, and then that's a personal freedom that you have. But we don't really have the conversations about just how much harm that it causes.
we don't. We don't want it. Because everybody that you'd have a conversation with is drinking. So they'd rather just keep drinking it, you know? It's funny, the softball though, like that was big for me back in recovery too. And then where I ended up tying my alcohol to softball too. So I had a fun event to do that I could drink at legally. And I did that for years, So, I mean, yeah, I was in good shape too. So, I mean, I was living my best life. I was a good ball player by all means, There's no reason it wasn't even drunk. But can you imagine the person I could have been without all of it? I mean, I wouldn't be who I am now. I love exactly who I am. I know I've went through everything that I've went through because to learn what I've had to learn just to show other people, like, obviously we can make it through hard things. We can do hard things. We can make it through. We can live different than everybody else. We don't have to live like because everybody else goes to the bar, or I mean, you can even go to the bar. You don't have to have a drink. Get you something else, like change it up. Maybe try to be different. I mean, it's been way too acceptable for way too long. It's starting to cause even more and more deaths. COVID was a big factor in it. That's what brought it all out, was because all of a sudden everybody's at home. you know, you're essential, and then you're not. And you already had a problem drinking, but you didn't want to accept that. You didn't realize it. But now you woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, knew you didn't have to work, so you picked up a drink, drank for a couple hours, 5 in the morning. Now you pass out, wake up at 11 in the afternoon. Might as well have another drink. Like it gets to that point if you let it. And I did. I did. I took it all the way to the end, and it's not pretty. I don't want anybody to ever have to live that lifestyle or come back from it even. It's not easy. It's taken everything I have. I'm still struggling, like for one, I'm a single dad, income wise, single incomes. It's rough out there anyway for everybody. Like it's been rough, and to come back from that. But if I look back to where I was, I have to be grateful, man. Like, how could I not be grateful? I have my kid, my son, I'm raising him. I have him 24/7. Like, he lives with me, so if that's not saying, like, at the end there, he was moving to Nevada with his mom. Now here he is healing with me. And it's such a blessing to watch your kids heal. Like, you don't know all the damage that you're really doing, but when you get sober and watch them heal from it, you understand how much damage you actually did. But it's not until you actually get sober that you'll understand that, or see it. But it's so beautiful to watch him grow now and just the confidence come back. He's not so lost that he doesn't know if his dad's going to live or die, Like, no kid should ever have to go through that. And that's how my girls are too. Like, I see I'm so proud of them. They're older, obviously. There's a big age gap between my daughters and my son. It's not 10 years or so, But so I'm still raising him, is why I talk about him a little more. They're off onto their own lives and they're doing well. I couldn't be more proud of my daughters for sticking through and just seeing that they didn't have to be like me, you know. For one, they don't, like, it had to have been rough because back then I was raising them too, like, by myself. So I had to think about it, a drunk dad raising daughters. I just let them go. They were running all over, you know. They still ended up making it, and they're making the right choices, and it's really cool to watch. It's really awesome to heal after so long. And this is the feeling I was chasing the whole time. I really thought alcohol and drugs were going to give it to me, but it was that I should have just stayed sober, man. And that feeling when you can finally breathe
Yeah.
after you feel like you've been holding your breath for way too long and you're just like, weight goes off your shoulders. That's where sobriety's leading me.
What
There's
you
hard days,
what you needed was there all along. You
right?
went chasing something that gave you a certain kind of feeling, but it, like I said, it takes you down to the dark side. And I think that's one of the things, alcohol and other drugs too, but alcohol, because it takes your consciousness, you know what I mean? Like the more you drink of it, the more it really, like, you smoke a lot of meth, you're going to become real alert if if you've got some sleep, you know what I mean? But alcohol, you're going to, you lose your consciousness. And what it also does is it sounds like what you found was a sense of responsibility towards your children, not just yourself, but to your children for their healing and to play a part in that as well. And if you drink every night, for example, then you can skirt that responsibility because you takes your consciousness away, and so you don't have to sit with yourself in the way that you would in sobriety. And so sounds like, brother, that's exactly what you needed, was just what you had all along, your family and the ability to be free from it. Because, right, I mean, there's many ways to go to jail. You could have been locked up in a real prison, but having to drink all the time is might as well have chains on.
Oh man. Yeah, that was probably worse than any prison, almost like, 'cause if you think about it, towards the end, you are in prison yourself. You sit in your own room. Literally nobody wanted to be around. And I don't blame them. Like, even like you were saying back then, I'd call. I remember I'd try to call and I'd be like, why doesn't he answer or something? I know why now. You know, I do. And I'm sorry that I turned to that way, like to a lot of people. And it is like one of my big deals is if you haven't done them 12 steps, you should at least give yourself a chance, and do them once too, because them will help you the rest of your life, you know. It's kind of like a lot of people use AA meetings and NA meetings to do. I don't these days because I did learn a lot of tools back then. I did need it back then. Trust me. 20 years ago, and I learned what I needed back then to stay sober. Now I just didn't know how to use it until I got away from alcohol. And now it's rebuilding your life. I mean, them doctor bills don't go away. Your rent don't go away. Your mortgage don't go away when you're sitting in the hospital. None of it. You know, it's just all adding up. So now you're just in a worse spot. You have to have the will to want to climb out of that, you know, and know that it's going to be hell. Know that it's going to be lonely, you know. You don't have a lot of friends when you get sober because they don't want to invite you to go golfing. They want to get hammered and don't want to feel awkward with you around being like all sober, you know?
It's the only drug you have to make an excuse not to use.
Right? It is. It's pretty crazy.
What was different? So we talked about when the after the meth, and we were in our early 20s and had all these things going on, playing softball, meetings, up the wazoo, all that kind of stuff. What's different about this time when in your 40s, early 40s, so 20 years down the road? How has your recovery looked different? How have you been able to? I know you mentioned a lot of community and connection with your family, but how else have you found community?
It's just I don't even know really. That one's kind of a hard one because it's just I've had to accept a lot of things that nobody's pretty much come to save me this time. You know, I've had, like you said, I'm gonna be 44 here in a couple days, but I've had my whole life to figure this out. I've just taken a different route. I haven't, I guess, allowed people to enable me as much. Yes, when I first got out, there was a GoFundMe which helped my medical bills and helped me get through a lot of stuff. And I'm so grateful for everybody who donated at that time. And I'd love nothing more than to get into a situation to where I can actually give back to multiple people, you know, or even the people that helped me out. Eventually I will. It's just the will to want to do better. I had to make a decision. I guess I don't even know, man. It's just I had to make a decision to quit and I've just done it. And I've had to accept everything about it. You know, do my work, sit here and accept, okay, maybe I mean, I still have to work on things daily. Like I have an attitude. You know, I got a mouth on me. So I feel like everybody's entitled to my opinion, which they're not, you know, especially if you're at work and or anything like that. I've had to relearn how to live life sober. And it's become interesting to me, I guess. I found a new passion in being sober instead of wanting to escape reality all the time. I've accepted the fact that I needed to grow up and step up and that nobody's going to save me. The only person who's gonna like where I was at in life, like I said, I pushed everybody away to the point to where there's nobody that's gonna help you. So you're gonna get left with a choice. Do you want to live in prison? You want to die, an institution, or are you gonna change your life around and actually fight for yourself? And fight for what you know's right and fight for who you know you are. Like we get lost up in things. Like when I drink, I would get lost in battles with the girlfriend or even the kids and just the one upper, you know, oh, now I'm drunk. No, and hurt feelings just for because we thought it was fun. We didn't know how deep it really went though, you know? And so I've just had to change as a person and accept it. Accept that I was a problem. I was my problem. You know, I was the one treating people like crap. I was the one ruining relationships. I was the one that needed to change. I was the one that needed to get better. I was the one that needed to work at building them relationships back. You know, it's nobody else's responsibility but mine. So I've just accepted the fact that, like, certain people, yeah, they're not my life no more. They don't even deserve to be, honestly. I mean, not in no rude way, but I can love somebody from way over there, you know, and wish nothing but the best. But you need to stay away, you know. There's a lot of people like that that just aren't going to be good for you, and you got to learn.
Yeah, it's one of the things I noticed, especially moving away. I know you've mostly lived in the same area, but moving away and then coming back, you change and other people don't change or they change in a different way. And it's hard to sometimes maintain relationships, especially when, you know, they might have included drugs or alcohol before. I have a lot of people that I just don't, I'm not saying we're not friends or not cool with each other, but I just don't vibe with in the same way because I don't, I don't live that kind of lifestyle. You know what I mean? I have more important things, like you said, family. And I wonder, there's some comments in here. I'll get them to him in a second. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat if you have any questions for Dalton. But what was I going to say? I lose my mind sometimes when I'm
I do too. It's fun.
when I'm when I'm in here. Oh no, I was going to say. So we've talked about several times where you skirted death in situations, whether that's just being involved in the meth game, being shot and killed. I'm sure there were other incidents as well. The alcohol poisoning, or the liver failure, all that you went through. Have you ever, I'm sure you have, but have you reflected on your idea, like any kind of divine intervention? When I imagine you with your daughters and everyone, but your son specifically, I'm just here envisioning, well, like, why was he supposed to make it through all that stuff? And it seems pretty clear that that's what you would have been, if you were supposed to have done, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Do you attribute anything to like any divine intervention, or have you thought about that?
I mean, what pushes me through that's it. These are my kids. I know people tell you don't do it you have to do it for yourself, which I am. But at the same time, it is for my kids. Like I need to just be better. I somehow got it in through all that negative darkness. There was light. There's only one way that I made it through, and that's higher powers. It's unexplainable. I can't explain it. Like even I read the doctor notes, and it's like echo unremarkable. Like the doctor's like, "How is he alive?" you know. And it's faith. It's just I have to keep faith, and that's what's working for me. Like we all have to just do what works for us. And if you don't believe in a higher power, then you don't have to. But you got to find something to believe in, or something to thrive for, to remind you that you don't. I mean, there's times that. Sorry, I think my child just got home from school. Scared me. There's times where everybody's gonna struggle. If you've been addicted to something, like I even think I've thought about meth before, just not even the fact of doing it, it was the money. There's different addictions involved with different things going on. So
You got a couple comments in here. Just Alicia says, "Thanks so much, Dalton. Your story changes lives. Love to you." Alice says, "Thank you for sharing your story. Alcohol is the reason I worry for my family also." And Carol said, "It's tempting because it does help." Talking about alcohol, it does help anxiety and fear, but it leads to death, car accidents, by suicide, violence, and so much, so much. And isn't that the truth? Just how many things it is involved in, like suicide, and whether it's a DUI, car crash, really. And I think a lot of suicides that happen when people are drinking, that they wouldn't do it if they hit the next morning. You know what I'm
you do.
saying? And so
I
it's an
think you're
accident.
right, 100% right on that one. Most of them, most of it, yeah, some sort of a drug. Lots of it's alcohol. They'll be drunk before, they go ahead and try to take a pill or put a gun to their head. It makes you think. Like, I'd just spend money like I had it. I would act like I was rich when I was drunk, go to the strip club all the time, acting like I had money or something. I didn't. I should have been spending that on my kids, but I was too drunk to realize that at the time. I guess I wasn't. I just didn't care. That's what it does to you. And I want to thank everybody who commented and for even commenting and showing love and supporting us. And this journey I do try to help, like, even if I could help one realize that, hey, I don't need to drink, man. Look, this guy's not doing it. He's cool. I don't know, he's doing just fine. He actually looks like he's doing better. That's what I want to see. I am doing better, from where I was. And that's why I share it from the beginning, because I want people to see them jaundiced eyes in my pictures, from the old ones. Like, I want them to see the yellow skin. I want them to see the tube sticking out with, like, look, this is where it leads. Like, if you're struggling and you really have a problem, that's where it leads. It's death. It does. It's poison. Nobody's going to tell you that, especially the big alcohol companies and everybody who's making money off you to kill yourself. I think it's population control, really.
I always say this was really interesting how you could watch like the NBA or Major League Baseball or NFL, and the most pristine athletes in the world, and then when they play the commercials, it's all shit that's bad for you, and especially
Yep.
alcohol, and a lot of times it'll be like an old player's voice or something like that in the, like, narrating it. So get you with that
Promoting.
familiarity. Yeah. I've been to jobs where it's like in, in the social work area of things, and you think, oh, they wouldn't talk about drinking in such a way, or went to like some training about trauma, and everyone jokes about how they're hungover. Like it's just
It's
such a
casual,
common
man.
theme, but we really shouldn't be talking about trauma with a hangover, if you know what I'm saying. Like that, it doesn't really, it doesn't vibe well together. But it's like I said, it's so normalized that we can't see it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the only drug that you have to make an excuse why you're saying no to it. Anything else you'd be seeing, oh no, no marijuana, no meth, no whatever.
Man,
You're seeing like, oh, good job. But if you decline the alcohol, then you got to have a explanation ready.
why? Why don't you drink? Well, let me tell you, that's what I usually say.
How much time you got?
We're at 5150.
Yeah. Any if anybody has any last minute comments in the chat, go ahead and put them in. What advice would you give to somebody, Dalton, that is in the throes of it? How would you tell how should they make the first steps to getting whatever it is that they need to find healing?
I mean, first go to rehab, go withdraw if you're not that far. And if you are and you're thinking about giving up, don't. Just don't. Just today. That's it. Make it through the day and repeat that tomorrow. You know, that's all we have to do every day. That's one thing that'll keep me going forever is that I get to live for today. And it's get to live. I don't have to do anything. You know, I get to. Blessed to be here. I get to be here. It's an opportunity. Another one I'm blessed with. I don't even like, I'm grateful that I've even been able to get back to work, you know, and it's because I didn't give up. I didn't stop. And if you don't, I mean, obviously you keep working for better, you're going to get better. It's put in what you put out, you know, putting in negative. I don't care. I'm just going to drink every time. What is that putting in? Negative. I don't care. That's what you're going to get out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So just keep going. That's all I do really have with the just for today is the best slogan you can ever have.
You only got to
Live
make it
for
through today.
today. Make it through.
Yeah. Well, I think, that's great advice for anyone. It's just to make it through another day. I think another thing that is just important to mention is that a lot of the reason that we turn to drugs and alcohol is because life has been hard for us. Life is hard, and it's one way to deal with it or to cope with it or to make us feel better. And the truth is when you get off of drugs or whatever, you come clean or sober, whatever we're calling it, life's hard too. Sometimes it's harder
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
while, but
Yeah.
but accepting that life is hard is what brings out the beauty in it, if you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Because the harder life has been for us, the more that we can really enjoy those moments with our children, if we're aware enough to do it, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
then those moments just become so beautiful, and you recognize like simple things I notice all the time, like the trees outside or the wind blowing or shit that you'd never notice in, when you're in the throes of things, or just a simple hug from someone you love to go connect and share a meal. Like, you know, what could be better than that?
Nothing. We get the opportunity to be here. I mean, that alone, that I would tell people change it till you get to do things instead of you have to. Look at life like that for a few weeks and see how you start feeling about life. You know, it'll really help you. A lot of it's mental. We have to learn our mental state of being and relearn how we want to be. It's never too late to change. It does take work and you have to be willing to do it. And you're going to fail sometimes. Know that. Not everybody's going to get it the first time, but that doesn't mean you have to give up. You know, come back, do it again the next day. Every time you try it, if you slip, it doesn't make you a bad person. I'm not saying that at all in any way. You know, like people that drink or do drugs, they're not bad people. They're just not them. Like they're really not themselves at the time. And it takes a lot of understanding, like you said, to help get addicts through, to get them back to where they deserve to be. You know, everybody.
Addicts are a bunch of people walking around with holes in their hearts. They need to become whole. You know what I mean? They need some love and they need to be connected. And that's how you heal, is taking that hole and turn it into being a whole person.
It's awesome. Just the whole experience is opened my eyes to a new view of life. Like I followed the crowd forever. I drank because it was easy or because it was cool at first or because it was made me feel this way or that way. And then I drank for this, and then I drank for that, and then that's the thing is I always had a reason to drink. And when we were talking about that life being hard, it's for some reason us as humans got it in our head like it's supposed to be easy. Like somebody's ever told us it was gonna be easy, No, no, that was just our own thoughts, or somebody else has said it. It's always it it's that you get better. That's the part. You learn, you get through, you grow, you get better. And I mean, this is one of them. If you can conquer alcohol, like, I'm not going to lie, your life, you are going to get better. You're not going to be poisoning yourself anymore. You won't be feeling the way that I feel even now. Like arthritis took over because I went malnourished, 130 pounds. You get super unhealthy. All your organs are shutting down. Arthritis, if you have it at all, it starts taking over. And your body's fighting everything it possibly can, and you're just weak, but you can make it through. That's my whole goal. That's to show people that we can, and it's never too late. Give yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Change your reality. The reality that you might be able to code switch and, I wish I had some shades here, take off, put on the shades and go a different direction. I'm serious about that though. You know what I mean?
That'd
You
be
can
cool.
change your reality.
You
And it
can.
also, I think what you said is also a warning, a serious warning. And, that if you're on that path, then the sooner you check yourself, the better. The sooner you are able to heal from it, the better, because there's consequences, right? The
Yes.
consequences of health, even relationships that somebody may not want to forgive you for something, and that's in their right to do. You know what I'm saying? So there's consequences, and so the sooner that you can heal yourself, then the better.
Yes. Unless you're gonna destroy.
There's a few more comments here. Carol says, "Thank you, Dalton. When you say if we can help just one, the good news is that there are people out there, and you are helping every day just for being open." And Jesse said, "Every second is another chance to turn it around." Yeah, all very important, very profound.
Thank you, Carol. That brought tears to my eyes. Happy tears, of course. I'm pretty emotional now. I get there, it's pretty easy to get me onto that level to where I mean, I've healed. I can cry again. I'm not a heartless worm, I guess. Like I don't know how to say it. I'm not heartless anymore. Like I have emotions. I needed to feel. I was so dead for so long inside that I didn't even know I knew how to feel, and I needed it. Honestly, that's that part where I want you to give yourself that chance.
Yeah, I think that's important because by you doing that, it gives other people permission that see you do that and might be feeling a certain way. It allows them to let go, because that's, if you think about it too, like addiction, being in the throes of alcohol. When you were talking earlier about being in the depths of the alcoholism, I'm like, it's like sometimes we just hold on to something so tight that if we just let it go, then we could start the healing process. You know what I mean? And I think same thing with emotions. Sometimes we keep them all pent up inside of ourselves when the thing that needs to happen is you just to let it go, let it out.
You,
That's why it's important to have people to listen to us too. You know what I mean? When
it is
going through it.
people that have been there and understand and can get through it and have been through it, even to support you. Like a lot of people, we don't want to listen to the knowledge that they have, but honestly, that knowledge might save your life or somebody so
Mhm.
it's nice to it's always a learning process here.
Well done. It's been awesome to talk to you and reconnect with you and learn. There's even gaps for me. I didn't know your whole, post, alcohol surge, or your post alcohol journey and all that. So I learned a lot. I just want to commend you for, moving forward despite life being hard and just creating all the healing for yourself, for your family, for the people that listen to you, inviting them to heal and to get help where they need it. Just much respect to you. And I just wanted to open it up. You have any last words?
I just want to thank you and everybody else who even joined or I thank everybody, man. Just the support, the love. It does help keep me going. Like even when that's why I post on Facebook a lot is just to it makes my heart warm when somebody's like, congratulations, or hey, I got 30 days today and your story inspired me. Like that's one of the best feelings you can ever is when somebody tells you that you've really helped them or inspired them to do better. Because you know what's coming, now you get all these couple more years and they're like, what's coming for them. So it makes you happy for them. Genuinely. It's nice to be able to be genuinely happy for somebody. I have trust issues with so many people for so long and I still do. I'm working on it to this day. I'm working on all my issues still. I have plenty, trust me, just keep going. I really appreciate everybody who's commented and just been here with us. And Ace, I appreciate you for the lifelong friendship we've had. I mean, ups, downs through it all. You've taught me so much, and just your growth, and I'm being able to watch you and your path, and it's been awesome. How far you've come too. Like that's examples for me to be able to follow again.
Hmm. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you all.
yeah. We are. I appreciate you, Dalton. Everybody else appreciates you. Um, it's just a pleasure. I remember when I first got out of rehab. You remember Lil Lazy, Jesse? Yeah, he was driving by and he picked me up and he was like, "What have you been doing?" I was like, "I went to rehab." And he's like, "Ace, you didn't go to rehab. You are not." Like he just couldn't imagine me as not being the dude that runs the streets and whatever. And so I think it's funny to think back to those moments and even the stories that we told earlier, and just to see like where life was at, how far we've come. Like it seems like it's a different world. The world was dark back then. We weren't all connected. We wouldn't have been able to do something like this.
Right. Yeah.
And so
The
it's just a,
social media helped a lot too.
yeah, different.
Bring so much stuff to life. I don't know. It's hurt a lot too.
Definitely has. Well, I think we can connect here, but sometimes we don't know our neighbors, if you know what I mean. Well, all right, Dalton, we'll leave it at that. Like I said, it was a pleasure talking to you. Much respect to you, and thank you for taking the time and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it. I'll get this up and posted in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
All right, Dalton. Peace.
Thank you.